Welcome to the debate. When a pilot is flying on a perfectly clear day, they basically just look out the canopy and they trust their eyes, right? They navigate by sight, relying entirely on their own sensory intuition.
Right, they can literally see where they're going.
Exactly. But when they fly into, say, a blinding storm, when the horizon just vanishes and vertigo sets in.
Which is terrifying, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. It's mathematically overwhelming for the human brain. So what do? They have to stop looking out the window. They lock their eyes onto the instrument panel. They basically surrender their intuition to the machine because the environment has just become too complex to navigate by human sense alone.
That is absolutely true. They do trust the instruments in the storm. But think about what happens the very second one of those digital dials gives an impossible reading.
Right, like a malfunction.
Yeah. Say the altimeter suddenly shows a drop of, 10,000 feet in a single second. The pilot instantly distrusts the entire panel. They fight to regain manual control, even in the blinding rain. The trust we place in machines is absolute, right up until the exact moment it shatters.
And that really brings us to the core of what we are arguing today. As the volume of data we process on a daily basis grows exponentially, making individual decision-making incredibly taxing, do algorithms fundamentally outperform human intuition in complex tasks?
And critically, why do we tend to trust algorithmic advice more than human consensus when the decisions get genuinely difficult?
Right, and we're grounding this whole discussion in recent empirical research. We've got a massive experiment on how we weigh advice and some really deep consumer studies on AI and e-commerce.
Yeah. And to put our perspectives clearly on the table right away, I argue that this supposed algorithmic superiority is highly fragile. It is heavily limited by subjective human experiences, psychological discomfort, and frankly, our severe intolerance for machine error.
And I'm taking the position that when life gets mathematically overwhelming, algorithms are actually our best and most rational way out. They are objectively superior in complex, data-heavy tasks, and our reliance on them is a completely necessary response to cognitive overload.
Well, let's look at that objective superiority, because I think it's really easy to look at the machine in a vacuum and be impressed, but human decision-making doesn't happen in a vacuum.
It doesn't, no, but the math is still the math. If you look at the comprehensive meta-analysis of 136 independent studies on this exact topic, algorithms are, on average, 10% more accurate than non-algorithmic human judgment.
Just 10%? I feel like, people often assume AI is going to give them a 50 or 60% jump in accuracy.
Well, sure, but 10% is an incredible edge when you aggregate it over thousands of decisions. And we aren't even just talking about advanced neural networks here.
Right.
Even the most simplistic algorithms, for instance, a model that literally just takes all available variables and weights them equally, they routinely outperform human prediction. And the reason is simple, right? Humans are noisy.
We get tired?
Exactly. We get fatigued, we get distracted by totally irrelevant information. We have a hard ceiling on our cognitive capacity. So as tasks become difficult, offloading the processing to a machine is just the logical move to arrive at a more accurate result.
Okay, that works in a vacuum, sure. But you are completely ignoring the human user in this equation. You can't just reduce decision-making to raw accuracy percentages on a spreadsheet.
I'm not saying it's just a spreadsheet.
But algorithms have incredibly strict boundaries in the real world, right? Like, a statistical model might predict a numerical outcome perfectly, but humans still overwhelmingly reject algorithms for subjective or empathetic tasks.
Well, for now, maybe.
We want a human doctor delivering our medical advice. We rely on human intuition to predict if a joke is actually funny. We want to know that the entity making the decision actually understands the human condition.
I completely agree that there are subjective boundaries today, but I want to focus on how our trust behaves when the pressure is actually on. When the task is objective but highly complex.
Okay.
There is this brilliant 1,500 participant pre-registered experiment that gets right to the heart of this. The researchers use something called the judge-advisor system.
Let's explain what that looks like in practice, actually, because the setup of that study is really clever in how it tricks the participants.
It really is. Okay, so imagine you are brought into a lab and shown a photograph of a massive, densely packed stadium crowd. Your task is to estimate exactly how many people are in the picture.
Because incredibly hard.
Right. So you make your initial guess. Then the researchers say, hey, before you lock in your final answer, here is a piece of advice. Here is a guess from an outside source. They give you a number, and you can choose whether or not to adjust your final answer based on that advice.
And the trick is that the advice they give to every single participant is completely identical. The only thing they change is the label on the envelope, so to speak.
Precisely. Half the participants are told this advice comes from an algorithm trained on 5,000 images.
Right.
And the other half are told this advice is the average guess of 5,000 other people. So it isolates the variable of the source perfectly. The wisdom of the crowd versus the machine.
Right.
Now, the researchers varied the difficulty of the task. Sometimes the photo was relatively easy to estimate. Other times the visual noise was chaotic, making it just incredibly difficult. They tracked how much the subjects updated their answers toward the advice.
And what did they find?
Well, what they found is the absolute crux of my argument. As the task got genuinely hard, subjects relied significantly more on the algorithmic advice than they did on the human crowd.
Because the cognitive load became too much?
Exactly. Think of it like long division. You don't trust your intuition to divide 4,821 by 73. You just reach for a calculator.
Sure.
When the analytical noise in a task reaches a certain threshold, human intuition degrades. We naturally and correctly surrender to the algorithm because we recognize its superior capacity to parse complexity. We demonstrate what the researchers call algorithmic appreciation.
Okay, hold on. You are cherry-picking the moments when the algorithm is functioning flawlessly. I want to push back using the exact same study.
Go for it.
Because, yes, when the task is hard and the advice is perfectly accurate, we lean on the machine. But let's talk about what happens when the dial spins backward. What happens when the advice is flawed?
Well, no system is perfect, obviously.
True, but the researchers tested this explicitly by providing inaccurate advice to the participants. And the divergence in how humans react is stark. The study shows that subjects severely disregard inaccurate advice from an algorithm compared to equally inaccurate advice from a crowd of peers.
I mean, they do penalize the machine more, yes.
They don't just penalize it, they practically abandon it. Look, if a crowd of 5,000 people guesses wrong on that stadium photo, the participant thinks, well, it was a really blurry, difficult picture. To err is human.
Right.
We understand the mechanism of their failure. But if an algorithm trained on 5,000 images guesses wrong, we view it as a catastrophic failure.
But why? I mean, if the error is mathematically identical, why does the source matter so much to the human brain?
It comes down to something in psychology called theory of mind. As humans, we can easily imagine the internal state of another human. We can imagine them getting tired or, squinting at a blurry photo or just making a dumb mistake.
We can empathize with them.
So when an algorithm makes a mistake, our brains don't categorize it as a simple slip-up. We categorize it as a structural failure. We assume the machine is fundamentally broken.
That is a really fascinating psychological mechanism.
Right? And it proves that our trust in algorithms isn't some rational, calculated appreciation. It's an incredibly brittle, conditional probation. A tool that you throw away the very first time it glitches is not a superior tool, it's a liability.
I see the logic there, I really do. But I actually think the fact that we hold algorithms to a standard of perfection reinforces my point.
How so?
We expect them to be flawless because we intuitively understand that their architecture is designed to eliminate human error. We know they are supposed to be better than us.
But if we refuse to use them after one mistake, their objective superiority doesn't matter.
Let's test that idea by moving out of the laboratory. If we only penalize algorithms when they make obvious errors on objective tasks, like counting heads in a photo, what happens when there is no definitively correct answer?
Where are you going with this?
Let's move into the realm of complex subjective choices, specifically online shopping.
The digital intelligence era, e-commerce platforms.
Exactly. Think about the data volume on platforms like Amazon. It is intractable for a human brain. Millions of products, constantly shifting prices, infinite variables. AI personalized recommendations driven by deep learning step into this void. And they don't just act like a filter, they act like a hyper-observant detective.
A detective? I'm not sure I like the sound of that.
Well, yes, it's not just a sorting mechanism. By synthesizing massive amounts of historical preference data,
How long you hovered over a picture of a blue shirt 3 years ago, what time of day you usually buy electronics. The AI provides what the literature calls insightful experiences.
Right. It's making connections.
It connects invisible dots to anticipate your needs before you even articulate them yourself. It doesn't just show you what you search for. It shows you things you didn't even know you wanted yet. And the data shows this directly promotes clicking intention.
So it manipulates us.
No, the algorithm is practically outperforming the consumer's own intuition about what they desire.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this. You are arguing that the recommendation engine is so mathematically precise that it literally knows what I want better than my own brain does?
Yes, and it reduces your cognitive load so effectively that you gladly let it make the choice for you.
I have to push back on that, because you are treating the recommendation engine as an isolated calculation of relevance. You're saying good data goes in, relevant products comes out, user clicks buy.
That's essentially what happens.
But the empirical research involving over 1,000 consumer questionnaires paints a much messier picture. They use a psychological framework called the SOR model.
Right, stimulus, organism, response.
Exactly. Think of it as a 3-step chain. The algorithm throwing a highly relevant product on your screen is the stimulus. Your decision to click buy is the response, but the magic, the actual deciding factor, happens in the middle, within the organism.
Within the human.
That's you, the human. The study proves that the AI's raw relevance is not enough on its own. The positive impact on clicking intention is strictly mediated by the human's immersive experience and their acceptance of the technology.
Meaning the psychological state of the user acts as a filter for the algorithm's effectiveness.
A massive filter. Let's go back to your hyper-observant detective metaphor. If a detective knows exactly what you want because they've been secretly following you for 3 years and tracking your eye movements, you don't feel grateful. You feel terrified.
Okay, well, that's fair.
The study shows that if consumers perceive a high degree of information privacy infringement, the positive impact of that brilliantly accurate AI completely unravels. It triggers a psychological circuit breaker. The immersive experience shatters.
Right.
So the algorithm hasn't replaced human intuition at all. It is entirely at the mercy of human emotional comfort. The machine can calculate the mathematically perfect product, but if the human's intuition senses that their privacy boundaries have been violated, the mathematical perfection is totally irrelevant. The response drops to 0.
But I think you are treating those privacy concerns as a permanent, immovable wall. When you look at the history of technology, privacy fears are often just a temporary friction point in the adoption curve.
You think people will just get used to being tracked?
Absolutely. Look at the early days of the internet. People were completely terrified of typing their credit card numbers into a web browser.
That's true.
It felt like a massive privacy infringement, like handing your wallet to a stranger in an alley. Now, it is second nature. We do it without thinking. The consumer experience research explicitly notes that when information quality improves, the positive impact of technology acceptance is enhanced.
So, better data makes us more willing to be surveilled?
I wouldn't use the word surveilled, but better data creates a better experience, which builds trust. AI is moving far beyond just filtering noise. Through long-term data mining, it achieves on-demand precision marketing for millions of people simultaneously.
Right.
It fundamentally outperforms traditional human retailing strategies. From my perspective, these circuit breakers you mentioned, the creepiness factor, they're just temporary hurdles. Better user interfaces and increasing familiarity will eventually pave over them.
That assumes the ultimate goal of the human is just convenient. But have you considered that the very mechanisms we use to validate these AI recommendations prove that human intuition is still the boss?
What do you mean?
We click on the things the AI suggests.
Yes, but we don't do it blindly. Think about what the e-commerce studies reveal about our behavior. When the AI recommends a highly targeted product, we don't just instantly buy it, we cross-reference it.
We check the reviews.
Exactly. We scroll down and read the human reviews. We actively seek out social influence and require those immersive experiences to validate the algorithmic output.
We verify the math.
Right, which tells me that human intuition hasn't been replaced. It is simply retreated to a higher level of abstraction. Yes, the volume of data is too high for us to sort through manually. So we use the algorithm as an assistant.
Okay, I'm tracking with you, but we rely entirely on our uniquely human intuition to decide if the assistant's advice feels trustworthy, ethical, and safe. Think of the algorithm as the intern doing the raw research. Human intuition is still the executive making the final call.
I like that analogy. But if the executive relies on the intern's research for 99% of the briefing, and the intern is statistically 10% more accurate than any other executive in the building, at what point do we admit the intern is actually running the show?
They are running the sorting process, not the decision process.
But the cognitive load reduction is just too powerful to ignore. The research shows that AI recommendation engines reduce our cognitive burden so effectively that we are provided with optimal services through pure prediction.
It is convenient.
It's more than convenient. We are outsourcing our decision-making because our neurological hardware literally cannot keep pace with the informational environment we have built. Algorithmic appreciation in highly complex tasks isn't just a quirk, it is an evolutionary adaptation to the digital age.
If it's an adaptation, it's one with a very short leash. Let's return to the metric of weight on advice from the judge-advisor system experiments.
Sure.
It's true that people put heavy weight on the algorithm when estimating crowd sizes or, sorting through products online. But the literature is explicit here. This trust is heavily conditional on the domain.
Meaning the type of task dictates the level of trust.
Exactly. We gladly let the algorithm pick our next pair of shoes or calculate our fastest route through city traffic. But when it comes to medical diagnoses, legal judgments, or assessing the emotional resonance of art, the weight placed on algorithmic advice absolutely plummets.
Even if the algorithm is statistically more accurate in those fields?
Even then, because algorithms lack the lived experience required to understand the human condition. They can parse the data of a medical chart instantly, sure.
Right, with incredible precision.
But they cannot look a patient in the eye, read the room, and intuitively gauge their will to endure difficult treatment. They don't know what it feels like to be afraid, or to be in pain, or to laugh. And because of that, our intuition fundamentally rejects them as ultimate authorities in domains where humanity is the core variable.
I'd actually push back on that boundary. I would argue that reading the room is ultimately just another form of data processing.
You really think so?
I do. It's micro-expressions, tone of voice, physiological responses. And algorithms are rapidly mastering those through sentiment analysis and biometric tracking. The boundary you are describing is getting thinner every day.
Mastering the data of an emotion is not the same as experiencing it.
Perhaps not to the machine, but to the user receiving the output. The difference might become indistinguishable. However, I do acknowledge the reality of algorithmic aversion. When errors occur in high-stakes domains, the psychological hurdle is massive.
It really is.
But when you look at the aggregate evidence from these studies, the overarching trajectory is clear.
Which is what, in your view?
That as our world becomes exponentially more complex and data-heavy, algorithmic advice objectively outperforms human intuition. It significantly reduces our cognitive load. And as tasks scale in difficulty, human beings are increasingly and rationally choosing the cold certainty of the algorithm over the flawed, noisy consensus of the crowd.
And I will always acknowledge the sheer processing power of these systems. That baseline 10% accuracy edge in controlled settings is real. But human trust is not a mathematical formula. It is deeply fragile.
Conditional, like you said earlier.
Right. Our appreciation for algorithms is strictly bounded by the type of task, our visceral fear of having our privacy violated, and our absolute need for an immersive, secure experience.
The SOAR model in action, the human filter.
Exactly. We demand perfection from our machines because we do not understand their minds. They are black boxes. We forgive our peers because we share their flaws. Until algorithms can explain their reasoning in a way that actually resonates with human empathy, they will remain powerful tools, like the intern doing the research, but they will never be unquestioned authorities.
It really leaves us with a fascinating paradox to consider. As the environment becomes more chaotic, as the data just overwhelms us, we instinctively seek the cold, calculating certainty of algorithms.
Right.
We beg them to navigate the storm for us because we know our own eyes aren't enough.
Yet the moment they twitch, the moment they make a single error that we can't comprehend, We hold them to an impossibly flawless standard that we would never demand of ourselves.
We are constantly renegotiating the boundaries of technology acceptance, balancing the intimate demands of our privacy with the undeniable, almost necessary convenience of AI.
Which means that despite all the data, it leaves every single one of us to decide in our own daily lives exactly where we draw the line between artificial calculation and human intuition.
Next time you find yourself in the storm, look at the instruments on the panel and ask yourself just how much you really trust the dials.